Hi, my name is Janice Huber, and I am a member of the Family Support Team for Touchstone Applied Behavior Analysis. I am a behavior analyst, but I'm also the parent of a child who benefited from an ABA intervention. Today's presentation is a brief introduction aimed at helping parents and caregivers become savvy consumers when navigating through autism treatment claims and making decisions based on treatment. I'll discuss some tips and strategies that may help you along the way. Touchstone's presentation on navigating autism treatment claims. I'll use the term substantiated because it means to verify by supplying evidence. You will hear and see the phrase scientifically proven used as well. The message is the same. Substantiated is a more accurate term because it's directly tied to evidence. And when we're talking about autism treatments, the evidence is critical. Here is the map we need when selecting treatments for our kids. A clear, distinct path from the time of diagnosis to safe, effective, substantiated treatment. Sometimes this straightforward path is available to us when our kids need health care. A child that has vision challenges, we go to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist for vision care. Or maybe the child has a cavity, we go to the dentist for a filling. In these situations, we aren't faced with a wide variety of conflicting options. Unfortunately, when it comes to an autism diagnosis, the map we are faced with often ends up looking like this: a multitude of directions and choices, overwhelming information, and usually conflicting recommendations. A quick Google search for autism treatment returns 87 million hits. That's million. There are reportedly more than 500 marketed treatments for autism. It's often overwhelming for caregivers. And many of these treatments are quite compelling on the surface. As healthcare consumers trying to help our loved ones, we are a vulnerable group. Our motivation can be so powerful to help our kids that we can unintentionally fall prey to slick advertising. So where do we start? How do we choose? An important concept and practice in healthcare is that of informed choice. So let's look at a couple definitions. Simply put, informed choice is the process of choosing between options based on accurate information and knowledge. When you have a medical procedure, your healthcare provider will explain the risks and benefits of having or not having that procedure. And with that information, you then make an informed choice about whether or not to proceed. Here's a definition that is a little more specific. Informed choice involves the exchange and understanding of relevant information so that a knowledgeable, reasoned, and unpressured decision can be made by the healthcare consumer. Both definitions of informed choice include two main components: accurate information, that's the information we've been given or maybe we have found, and our ability and our knowledge to sort through that information to figure out if those treatment claims have been determined to be safe, effective, and substantiated. For instance, you may see this information posted on an autism treatment website. 150 parents reported improvements in their children as a result of this or that treatment. In order to make an informed choice, we need accurate information and the ability to analyze that information. Maybe 150 parents did report seeing improvements. That statement may in fact be accurate, but here's where our ability and knowledge is critical. We need to be able to look beyond those testimonials to see if those reports are backed up by evidence that demonstrate the treatment is in fact effective. So here are some signs to look for. The first is evidence-based. The phrase evidence-based originated in the medical field, but it has become the benchmark for professionals in many other fields such as ABA and education. While there's no universal definition of the phrase evidence-based, the Missouri Autism Guidelines Initiative identified a core theme, and that is that evidence-based practice requires careful assessment of current research with the goal of identifying interventions that have demonstrated effectiveness. For instance, if an autism provider claims their treatment is evidence-based, but that evidence is the 150 parents reporting improvements, that would not meet the definition of evidence-based because saying something worked is not the same as having data to show something worked. If there's a claim that a treatment is evidence-based, we have to look at what research exists and the evidence that supports it. The next sign to look for is peer-reviewed. We are interested in research related to autism treatments that have been peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means that other scientific experts in the field have checked the research papers for validity, significance, quality, clarity, methodology, and other benchmarks. Did the researchers use scientifically accepted standards in their research? Here's a short summary of what the peer review process looks like. Scientists conduct research and write up their methods and results in an article to submit for publication. The journal editor receives the article and sends it out to experts in the field for the peer review. Those reviewers scrutinize every aspect of the research to determine if scientific standards have been met. Often articles are rejected or sent back for revisions, and some may never get published. If an article finally meets the required standards, it is published in a professional scholarly journal. Why is peer review so important? It's important because it is the quality mark for science. When research is published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, it tells us that the work has been conducted to a standard that other scientists in the field accept. That research then contributes to a body of evidence for the field. A body of evidence in autism treatment is all the existing published peer-reviewed research related to treatment. For some of the marketed treatments for autism, a body of evidence simply doesn't exist. There is not any scientific research. Treatments that do have a body of evidence will have published summaries of the research. Those published summaries are called systematic literature reviews, which is another sign to look for. Rather than trying to keep up with individual research articles, we can rely on the reports of experts in a field that have conducted a systematic literature review. A systematic review of autism interventions will focus on a research question such as, what is the evidence in support of a given treatment? Reviewers will then identify, select, analyze, and report on all high-quality research evidence relevant to that question. For example, a published article may rely solely on parent reports, what parents say about a treatment. That article will not be included in a systematic review of evidence-based procedures because drawing conclusions about autism treatment based solely on what people say does not constitute scientific evidence. Reviews of research are often reported in general categories such as established or evidence-based, emerging evidence, or ineffective. Literature review reports that put autism treatments in the established or evidence-based category. It means that those treatments have been shown to be safe, substantiated, and effective. Treatments that are listed in the second category of emerging or insufficient, it means that those treatments might be promising, but there simply isn't enough evidence yet to meet the criteria for evidence-based. The last category is the ineffective category, and this is where you'll see treatments that have been demonstrated to simply not work. Given our motivation to provide the best treatment possible, we may find ourselves willing to try a treatment with only emerging or insufficient evidence. If you are considering an emerging treatment or one with insufficient evidence, I encourage you to do a cost-benefit analysis. It's kind of like a pros and cons list. A cost-benefit analysis involves weighing the cost of a potential treatment against the benefits of that potential treatment. Thinking about the cost not only includes the literal cost, the finances needed, but also the cost in terms of time and efforts. Is my child's time and energy best spent in this intervention that has only emerging or insufficient evidence? Our kids have only so many learning hours in a day, particularly young children. Their time and energy is a precious and limited resource, and I think the most important consideration when choosing treatment. What treatment has been demonstrated to provide the best outcomes with my child's limited time and energy? Here are a few warning signs or red flags to be aware of as you're evaluating autism treatment claims. If you see the terms cure and miracle, be wary. Those are red flags. There is no known cure for autism, and claims that a treatment is a miracle are likely not based in scientific fact. Be wary of any treatment claim that states the treatment is a cure for autism and a host of other related and unrelated health conditions. I once went to a presentation in which the presenter claimed his treatment could not only cure autism, but also scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine, asthma, ADHD, and a variety of other physical conditions. It just doesn't make sense. He relied on testimonials as his evidence. A testimonial is an anecdote or story that someone tells. It's usually about how great a service or product is. In autism treatments, you will see that many of the unfounded or pseudoscientific treatments rely solely on testimonials. Often it's their primary marketing tool. Now, one, because they can be incredibly effective in getting our attention, and two, because it's all they have. There is no scientific evidence to support their claims. Testimonials are simply opinions. They are casual observations of one person told to another. So here's an example of a testimonial. This is one person's story about the effectiveness of an intervention, or in this case, many interventions. Stories like this can be persuasive, but we have to look beyond their story to see if there's any science that supports the claims. A final warning sign or red flag is the promise of quick results. Promising caregivers that they will see quick results is simply a marketing ploy to reel you in, and I'd say it's a false promise. Given the wide range of behavioral excesses and deficits displayed by persons with autism, no one treatment can possibly provide quick results for every single person on the spectrum. Before my child started ABA, and even early in her intervention, I wanted to try any and everything. I remember asking a physician about my list of alternative treatments that I wanted to try, because I was convinced the promises and testimonials had to be true, and maybe even if they weren't, it was still worth a shot. He was kind and understanding, but his response was something like this: "Janice, if those treatments could provide such dramatic and remarkable results for every single kid they treat, we would all know about it. Parents would know about it, healthcare professionals, other consumers, researchers, scientists, we'd all be in agreement." There are some organizations that are investigating these claims on our behalf. One of them is the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA is cracking down on false claims and has published warnings about several alternative treatments for autism, even threatening legal action if marketers continue to make false and misleading claims. The FDA has published warnings against chelation, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, miracle mineral solution, detoxifying clay baths, and probiotics as treatments for autism. There are so many unfounded treatments for autism that are marketed on the internet and elsewhere, I'd imagine the FDA is having a hard time keeping up. Understanding the scientific effectiveness of autism treatments can be overwhelming, and it is not a matter of if, but when you will hear about some new treatment that pops up on the internet or social media. Being familiar with a few of these key scientific concepts we've reviewed can help us make good decisions for our loved one's autism treatment. A good resource for caregivers is the Association for Science in Autism Treatment, or ASAT for short. I am not affiliated in any way with ASAT, but I do encourage caregivers to visit their site. They are committed to providing accurate, scientifically sound information to the public. Their website can be found at asatonline.org. And their mission is to promote safe, effective, science-based treatments for people with autism. And they do this by posting accurate, timely, and sound information. They also advocate for the use of scientific methods to guide treatment, and they combat unsubstantiated, inaccurate, and false information when it comes to autism and its treatment. The site is easy to navigate, and you can look up specific treatments by category or alphabetically and see what the findings and recommendations are. So let's look at one. Facilitated communication. Here we can see what evidence exists in support of, or in this case against, facilitated communication as a treatment for autism. Based on the evidence demonstrating facilitated communication's ineffectiveness, you'll see that the recommendation is that this treatment is not useful for persons with autism. I also want to point out that systematic reviews of the literature are also listed under each treatment type. I described those earlier. They are reviews of all relevant research related to a question and provide summary results as to the effectiveness of a particular intervention. It's important to note that ASAT's Board of Directors is comprised of an interdisciplinary team. It's not just experts from one field, but experts from many fields such as behavior analysis, medicine, speech pathology, education, psychology, and others. So now let's look at applied behavior analysis, or ABA, and see if it meets the scientific standards we've talked about. I am a behavior analyst, so you might be thinking, of course I'm going to advocate for treatments in and from my field. And if you are questioning that, that's good. I hope so. I want you to be skeptical. So let's see if ABA meets the scientific standards. It's considered the gold standard of treatment and a medically necessary treatment for persons with autism. But why? Let's check our first sign, evidence-based. Is ABA evidence-based? And the answer is yes. ABA treatment meets the definition of being evidence-based. There is a large body of evidence that meets the criteria of sound scientific research, and that research spans more than 50 years. ABA is not new or experimental. The next sign is peer-reviewed. Is the research that's published about ABA's effectiveness peer-reviewed? Has published research been scrutinized by experts in the field to make sure that the scientific quality standards have been met? In the case of ABA, again, the answer is yes. There are many scholarly journals for applied behavior analysis which require peer review for publication. Some of those are the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, the Journal of the Experimental Analysis of Behavior, and the Analysis of Verbal Behavior, to name a few. Not only do experts within the field of behavior analysis review articles before they're published, many peer-reviewed articles have been published in journals from other disciplines and reviewed by experts in those fields, such as medicine. Peer-reviewed research that has looked at ABA to determine if it's effective has been published in a variety of medical journals, like Current Opinions in Pediatrics and Pediatrics. The next sign is systematic literature reviews. Have there been systematic literature reviews that resulted in a consensus that ABA is effective and proven and substantiated? Again, the answer is yes. Remember, authors of a literature review look at all the available research in a given area, and they select only those articles that meet certain standards and then publish summary results. The conclusion of these literature reviews that have been conducted within and outside the field of ABA is that ABA meets the criteria to be in the established or evidence-based category. I'm just going to mention one here as an example, but there are more listed in the references. There was a review conducted by two governmental departments in Maine, the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services. An expert panel looked at 150 studies of different treatments for children with autism and found that ABA treatment for challenging behaviors, increasing communication, increasing social skills, did meet the criteria for having established evidence. For most, if not all of the alternative autism treatments out there isn't any scientific evidence published to even do a literature review. So let's take a look at what ASAT has posted about ABA. You'll see in the research summary and recommendation sections that ABA is the treatment of choice for decreasing undesirable behaviors and increasing desirable behaviors in persons with autism. You'll also see references here for multiple systematic reviews. So let's take a look and see if there are any red flags or warning signs when it comes to ABA. The words cure and miracle, remember those are red flags? Claims regarding the effectiveness of ABA do not use terms such as cure and miracle. Terminology that is used most often to describe ABA as an effective intervention includes words like demonstrated, substantiated, proven, effective, replicated. And you won't see research conclusions called a miracle. But you will, however, see ABA referred to as a medically necessary treatment for autism. ABA has been demonstrated to be an effective intervention for a variety of behavioral symptoms and populations. There are many applications for ABA. Autism treatment is just one, and it's the one we're most interested in today, but it's important to know that ABA has been substantiated as an effective intervention for many groups of people and situations. Those areas include rehabilitation, behavioral health and wellness, classroom management, traumatic brain injury, organizational behavior management, and many others. It has been proven effective in so many areas because ABA is based on the science of behavior, the experimental analysis of behavior, and the principles of behavior. And behavior is everywhere. Even so, you won't see claims that ABA is a cure-all for any and every condition or symptom. ABA does not rely on anecdotal and testimonial claims in making treatment conclusions. ABA research most often uses single subject research designs and other scientific methodologies. Just like the scientific method you probably learned about in school, there are steps and procedures for conducting research. First, scientists ask a question. Then they do background research in that area. They may develop a hypothesis, and then they test with an experiment. There's an independent and a dependent variable, and then the scientists analyze the results and draw conclusions based on that data. Relying on stories people tell about a treatment is not a component of the scientific method. Quick results are not a promise in ABA treatment. While ABA may bring about quick results, sometimes, for some behaviors, for some people, quick results are not a promise by ABA providers. Behavioral excesses and deficits that exist for any given person with autism have been present for varying lengths of time and to varying degrees. Every person with autism is a unique individual, and each ABA intervention is also unique and individualized for that person. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to ABA, and as such, there is no blanket promise that ABA will lead to quick results for every person, for every behavior, in every situation. Another area to find information about ABA or any other treatment is to look at recommendations that are a result of outside research or reviews of research from well-established, reputable organizations that are not in the field of the treatment you're considering. So let's look outside the field of ABA. What do professionals in other disciplines say about its effectiveness? What conclusions have been drawn as a result of their evidence reviews? What you will find is that many other groups and organizations have also looked at the available research and have come to the same conclusion. These are some of the organizations that recommend ABA behavioral interventions for persons with autism: the United States Surgeon General, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, the National Institute of Mental Health, the National Academy of Sciences, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, and the National Autism Society, among others. One last development that I'd like to mention is the adoption of new CPT codes by the American Medical Association for Behavioral Treatment. CPT codes are the United States' standard for how medical professionals document and report procedures. All healthcare providers, third-party payers, insurers, and facilities use CPT codes. If you've ever had a medical procedure, CPT codes were used to identify that procedure. In September of 2018, the American Medical Association announced new CPT codes for behavioral treatment, which includes ABA. Adoption of these codes is a years-long process. There are many phases or steps that need to be successfully completed before the American Medical Association will adopt new codes. Some of those steps are research and development, testing, and analysis. This is significant because the American Medical Association only adopts codes for those treatments that have been substantiated by evidence. It is yet another indicator that ABA has met the rigorous standards of the scientific community. We have looked at quality indicators for autism treatment and what to look for in treatment claims. We've also talked about some warning signs and red flags to be aware of. I've listed some resources and references so that you can review the data for yourself. It is all about the data. You are your child's best and strongest advocate, and I hope the information I've shared will assist you in navigating through all those unfounded autism treatment claims and help you feel confident in your choice of ABA treatment for your loved one. We are here for you at Touchstone. Please contact us if you have any questions or would like more information about ABA.